Train the muscles, not the joints. So welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about getting over plateaus. Now, plateaus are difficult. I mean, everybody goes through them no matter what state you're in your bodybuilding or natural bodybuilding career. You'll go through a plateau from time to time. And the more advanced you get, the more tough the plateaus get as well, right? Because you get to closer to your genetic limitation or to your genetic peak, okay? And the closer you get to that, the harder it is for you to go further, you know? So it takes about 10 times more effort to get 1% the gains in some cases, okay? So here are some techniques that I employ to get over plateaus. One of the things that you can employ if you're experiencing a plateau, say you're experiencing a plateau in strength, always it's about changing things up, because like I've said before, when you overuse one pathway, sometimes it's just that pathway has adapted as much as it possibly can, so now it's time to change the pathway. So for instance, say you're doing a powerlifting routine where you're always in 5x5, or you're doing a pyramid type system of training with the heavy weights. Sometimes the fastest way to get somebody to adapt under those circumstances is to change them to high reps, or to change them to medium reps, or to change the angle. Maybe they need to just change the reps, or they just need to change exercise. You know, so basically what my point is, just changing things up is a great way to blast through a plateau. If you're working with strength all the time, start working with strength endurance. If you're working with strength endurance, start working with strength. So this is based on changing the parameters in your training. Okay, so let's just break down a set, for instance. In a set, there's something called a rep range, which is based on weight, based on whether you're going to failure or whether you are not. You know, when you're doing strength training type exercises, you might not be going to failure. You might be fixated on really training that nervous system or that coordination in order to gain strength. And when you're doing hypertrophy type of training, you might be going to failure all the time, but you may be going to failure in certain rep ranges. So changing any of those rep ranges up is one way of changing the parameter, okay? That's one parameter you can change. The other thing you can change is the rest in between sets. Now, not everybody knows this, but when you change the rest in between sets, you change what pathway you are using in order to cause an adaptation. So if you're only resting a minute in between sets, now your creatine doesn't really have as much chance to replenish in your muscle, and you'll be running on a different energy source. You won't be running on as much creatine, so there'll be a higher percentage of endurance fibers that get hit from those short rest in between sets. And it can be quite intense. You can actually get quite a bit of soreness from that type of training for a period of time. But of course, like all training, it works for a period of time and then it stops working altogether, right? And then again, time to change again, time to increase the rest, time to increase the weight, time to mess around with different systems. Now, just because you lower the rest in between sets doesn't mean you have to necessarily lower the weight a lot, right? I mean, you just want to lower it enough that you're safe and that you're always in control of the weight. But sometimes people will say, okay, well, I've done 30-second rest in between sets. I'm doing 20 reps a set or 30 reps a set. So now I want to rest 2 minutes in between sets. So I guess I got to use heavier weight. And that's not necessarily true. You could use the same weight, and now you'll notice that your reps actually go through the roof. You might actually get an extra 5 or 10 or 15 reps because you have replenished that energy source, right? So messing up those two parameters, rest and reps, can make a difference in how your body adapts. Tricking the body is a good way to hit those weak links. So you're only as strong as your weakest link in any one training routine or any one type of exercise. And the point of this is that a lot of people will train their strongest part, like whatever they are the best at, they'll train that and they'll train it to death and say, I'm a specialist, I want to get better at this. But sometimes by doing so, you've taken that strong part of your muscle or your system to the highest point it can go. Now the only way to strengthen the entire system is to go after the weak links. Now sometimes that's endurance, sometimes that's angles of attack, sometimes you've actually just burned out, like say you're doing flat bench all the time. Sometimes a good way to bring up your flat bench is to concentrate more on shoulder press or more on inclines for a period of time or more on dips, because now you're hitting muscles from different angles, and by doing so you may be bringing up some of those weak links that you're not aware of that will assist you in being able to bench press more. This is another reason why sometimes that obsessive compulsive thinking has to be discarded, because if you start running into a wall over and over and over again, you will continue to get the same result. You're not necessarily thinking outside the box. Getting those different angles, different rep ranges, different rest in your routine, and of course, if we think outside the set, we can start talking about the routine. We can start saying, okay, you've been doing super frequent training. Great, that might be working for you for a certain period of time, but perhaps it's time to change that frequency, maybe more frequent or less frequent. Because like I said before in one video, some muscles adapt better to certain types of split routines, certain amounts of volume. You know, one muscle group might respond better to high volume than another muscle group. So it's important for you to change the volume or change the routine, because if you're, once again, going too much in one direction, you're gonna get the same results. So you wanna go and get creative with your training. Right? So if you're stuck in a 2-day split or a 3-day split or a 1-day split, whatever it might be, change it up. If you're hitting a plateau, something up there is telling you it's time to change something. It's time to hit a place where you probably aren't so comfortable. It's very important for you to understand that changing angles will increase your strength. It will increase your ability to adapt, and at least that's what I've found. Sometimes when I'm doing more incline workouts and not focused on flat bench, and then I go to flat bench, then my flat bench all of a sudden goes up. You know, because I've given a rest to some of the patterns and some of the pathways that I use through flat bench, and I've also increased some of the strength in some of the other areas of my shoulder or my upper chest, and sometimes that assists me with getting a better flat bench, okay? So this is the exercise side of things. Don't be afraid to change things up there if you're hitting a plateau. Now, the other thing you want to do, besides changing your reps up, besides changing your sets up, besides changing maybe your routine up, think about what you're doing with your diet, okay? So if you're hitting a plateau when it comes down to putting on muscle mass, maybe you're not eating enough. Maybe you need to increase the calories. Maybe you need to increase the calories through carbs or fat, or maybe you need to increase the calories through protein. And I can't tell you which one it is, because for each person it'll be a little bit different, but try experimenting with those parameters, experimenting with increasing the amount of food that you're eating or lowering it. Because if you're in a fat loss type of paradigm and you want to lose more fat and you're not losing any fat, guess what? Something has to come down. You need to start replacing some of your carb calories with protein or your fat calories with protein, and find out where in your routine or where in your diet that you need to do this. So it's always about changing things up, because that's how you get through a plateau. But I just want to say one thing about plateaus, okay? It's also normal to go through periods of time in your training where nothing happens. I train clients like this. I've trained myself, and it's happened where 3-4 weeks go by, 6 weeks go by, and my strength does not go up. My size does not go up. I don't lose as much body fat as I thought I should, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, bang, it's like some system kicks in, and then the body starts adapting. So it's almost like it takes a little bit of momentum to get that train moving. But once it's moving, then it's a lot easier for it to adapt and start responding to the stimulus that you're giving to it. So don't get too discouraged if you've hit a plateau just for a few weeks or a few months, because that is kind of normal, right? It is normal, and you just keep feeding the stimulus to the body as long as you're not overtraining, as long as you're not experiencing these symptoms. But if you feel good, just keep on training, keep on following through, and then see what happens from there. And if that plateau lasts like forever, okay, like 6 months or something like that, or 4 or 5 months, you're just not getting anywhere, then at that point, really change something up. Really say, okay, what is it that I can change? How can I make myself more uncomfortable in a way that's not familiar to me or different, right? Sometimes you want to stretch the muscle in a way that you haven't stretched it before, or hit it from a different angle. And like I said, as long as you're training the muscle and not the joints, I'm totally okay with you changing things up, trying new things. All right. So I hope this helps you break through your plateaus in your training. Thanks a lot for watching, and make sure you share my stuff, because I'm like in a people sharing my stuff plateau right now. I gotta Yeah, not enough people share my stuff. I don't know what parameters have changed on that. I'm gonna have to watch another YouTube video on that, I guess. Thanks for tuning in, and take care for now.